Suborny Rani is a government officer who loves working for her professional duties and society. She is 28 years old and is known as a senior official, a title she is recognized by in her role as a government officer. However, one day, when she was on her way to a friend's wedding, she decided to keep her identity completely hidden from everyone. On that day, Suborny Rani set out as a regular girl, ensuring that no one would recognize her. There were no government cars, no security personnel. She was just a common woman, riding a motorcycle. Her destination was a village near the town of Hazanabad, where her friend Sharmila was getting married. As she made her way toward the town, she found herself approaching a police checkpoint. At the checkpoint, several police officers were standing, with the central figure being Inspector Rakib. He was a man in uniform, with sharp eyes. Rakib cautiously instructed her to stop her motorcycle. Suborny thought to herself that there shouldn't be any problem in riding her motorcycle normally. However, by Rakib stopping her, she realized that something was about to happen. Inspector Rakib asked in a stern voice, "Where are you going?" Suborny calmly replied, "I'm going to my friend's wedding." She tried to respond like an ordinary girl, with clear and simple words. Rakib showed discomfort in his eyes and stared at her for a while. It was as if he was clearly trying to judge this ordinary woman, as her attire and simple motorcycle ride seemed unusual to him. After a moment, he smirked and said, "So you're going to a wedding for food? But where is your helmet? Your father should wear it." Suborny felt a bit confused, her mind spinning. But just then, Inspector Rakib started preparing to give her a fine. "Come on, time to issue a ticket," he said. Suborny maintained her confidence. "Sir, I haven't broken any law," she said. But Inspector Rakib didn't seem to pay much attention to her words. There was a look of contempt in his eyes. "Oh, madam, don't try to teach us the law." He looked at a constable standing nearby and said, "We need to teach her a lesson." Then, Rakib suddenly slapped Suborny hard across the face with his baton. Suborny's head swiveled, but she quickly regained her composure. Her eyes now reflected anger and frustration. She realized how low the police could stoop. Rakib laughed and said, "There's still some arrogance left in her." He looked at a constable and said, "Let's take her to the station. We'll teach this girl a lesson there." Suborny still said nothing. Her eyes reflected determination. She wanted to see how much lower they would go. A constable tried to drag her by the arm and take her away. "Come on, sit in the car," the constable said. However, Suborny did not easily accept it. "Don't touch me," she said angrily, "or the consequences won't be good." This only made Inspector Rakib angrier. He shouted, "Look at this, such arrogance!" A constable came forward and tried to pull Suborny by her hair. She winced in pain but remained silent, not uttering a word. At that moment, the police struck her motorcycle with a baton and loudly proclaimed, "Pretending to be a saint? Now I'll make you my toy." Suborny understood how low these people could go, and how they could torment an ordinary person. But in her mind, there was a resolve. She didn't want to get caught up in their destructive system. Suborny was brought to the police station. Her identity was kept hidden as part of the plan to create a disturbance, and she found herself in an unfamiliar world. Suborny knew that here, she not only had to fight for justice but also preserve her confidence and inner peace. Just the day before, she had been filled with emotions and happiness to attend her friend's wedding, but now it felt as though that joy had vanished into thin air. Initially, when Inspector Rakib brought her to the station, he instructed the constables to take her away. Suborny remained steadfastly silent, with an unshakable strength in her eyes that helped her stay composed. The constables dragged her into a cabin, where two prisoners were already seated. One of them looked at Suborny and asked, "Sister, what crime did you commit?" Suborny didn't answer. She simply smiled faintly and glanced at them. In her mind, she was focused on one thing: how broken the entire system was. If an SDPO could be detained like this without reason, one could easily imagine what the situation for an ordinary person might be. Inspector Rakib went back to his office and began creating a false report. "This woman is involved in theft and blackmailing," he wrote in the report. A constable soon came to him and asked, "Sir, how will we proceed without evidence?" Rakib laughed and said, "Evidence doesn't get brought to this station, evidence is fabricated here." His distorted viewpoint and the perversion of the system were making Suborny think even more deeply. What kind of people, what kind of system? Everything was crumbling. Meanwhile, Suborny, with sharp eyes, began to understand the decay in the system. Another surprising event occurred when a constable whispered to the head of the station, Senior Inspector Sanjay Varma. "Sir, what's happening here?" Sanjay Varma took a step forward and asked the constable. "What's the case, sir?" Rakib hesitated and said, "She was speeding and riding without a helmet. I was trying to teach her a lesson." But Sanjay's suspicions increased. He looked at Suborny and focused on her more closely. "What's your crime?" he asked the silent Suborny. Since Rakib was now scared, he quickly responded, "Sir, she was being rude during the check." But there was no more doubt in Sanjay's eyes. He looked at Suborny and, without further suspicion, instructed that she be placed in solitary confinement. Sanjay Varma reflected on the previous incidents and thought to himself, "This is not just about a check, there's something much deeper going on here." A little later, a constable came running and said, "Sir, a government car is parked outside." Rakib furrowed his brow. "What car?" he asked. The constable nervously replied, "Sir, it's a government car." It wasn't until Sanjay Varma walked outside and checked the car that Rakib became increasingly uneasy. Sanjay returned and said slowly, "Sir, it's an official government car." Rakib's face turned pale. Just then, the commissioner arrived at the station. There was no sign of a smile on his face. He directly looked at Rakib and asked, "What is this nonsense going on here?" Rakib's face had turned pale, unsure of how to answer the question. The commissioner picked up the file and began reading it carefully. Rakib didn't know how to escape, but there was no way out. Then the commissioner asked directly, "Do you have any evidence?" Rakib remained silent. The commissioner asked again, "Do you have any evidence?" At that moment, Suborny let out a light smile and said, "My name is SDPO Suborny Rani." An absolute silence fell over the station. All the constables' and officers' eyes widened in shock. Rakib's feet seemed to sink into the ground. What had seemed unusual to him for so long was now standing right in front of him. Senior Inspector Sanjay Varma, astonished, said, "You are SDPO Suborny Rani?" Finally, the allegations against Rakib became clear to everyone. The entire system had been corrupt, and this was a perfect example of how a senior officer had been falsely accused and brought to the station. Sanjay Varma immediately ordered, "This incident needs to be investigated. From now on, we'll take action against Rakib." Rakib, now helpless, realized that the entire station was aware of his corruption and misuse of power. As the full truth came out, the commissioner made a decisive statement. "Rakib will lose his job, no matter how much he tries." Under the commissioner's orders, the atmosphere at the entire police station changed rapidly. In an instant, a large operation led by Suborny Rani and Sanjay Varma against Rakib's hostility and injustice was set in motion. Their goal was to heal the deep wounds of the entire system, ensuring that such corruption would never happen again. Rakib's situation worsened with each passing day. The accusations against him kept piling up, which, otherwise, could have been easily concealed. However, Suborny Singh and Sanjay Varma made sure with their determination that justice would prevail. Investigations were launched against Rakib and all the corrupt officers, and the administration was ready to take action against them. Within a week, several police officers, some senior officials, and political leaders were arrested one by one from the entire district's police station. Those police officers who had been previously involved in corruption were all arrested, and everything was placed under police custody. As a result, the entire Hazanabad district seemed to enter a new era. Meanwhile, Suborny Rani was fully focused on her professional duties. She knew that her fight wasn't over yet, as the system was long and powerful. However, A certain belief had emerged within her that if someone stays firm and proceeds with courage, no system can stop them. One day, standing in a corner of the Hosanabad police station, Suborny looked up at the sky and thought, "If this system can't be changed, what will happen? People will lose their trust." One day, she went to Sanjay Varma and said, "Our work is not done yet. There is still a lot to be done. Every level of this police station needs to be cleaned up." Sanjay looked at her and said, "You are right. But we still have a big task ahead. The injustices that were here have been cleared, but there's a lot of corruption left that we must properly tackle." At this point, Suborny began to think about how this kind of situation had spread across the entire country. Police, the administration, and even some political leaders had become involved in such activities. Suborny believed that if this corruption could be eliminated step by step, a change could be brought to the country. A week later, Sanjay Varma and Suborny Rani decided to take action against more senior officials. Their courage and integrity truly amazed everyone. One by one, cases were filed against political leaders, and they were arrested as well. This entire operation, which had begun with an innocent woman, Suborny Rani, being targeted, now shook the entire Hosanabad district. The police, administration, and the people realized that such a cruel and corrupt system could no longer survive. The situation soon became heated. Pressure started coming from various quarters. Some parties were criticizing Suborny's operation, but their activities no longer had the strength to resist. When some controversial leaders and police officers tried to make unjust accusations against Suborny Rani and Sanjay Varma, Suborny directly countered them, saying, "What we are doing is for the welfare of the people and the country. Nothing in this country can survive without integrity, justice, and courage." Thus, Suborny Rani, who once was just an ordinary girl on the road, had now reached a unique position. She had not only changed herself but had transformed the entire system. Her bravery and determination had inspired millions. Outside the Hosanabad police station, some journalists were present. They began reporting these incidents. That day, they revealed how an ordinary SDPO, Suborny Rani, had managed to dismantle a rotten system. With her courage, integrity, and determination, the Hosanabad district was heading toward a new direction. Her work soon became the subject of discussion not just in the district but across the entire country. Awareness about police and administrative corruption grew, and a new light of hope appeared in everyone's heart. Suborny Rani, through her actions, proved that any system can be properly changed if one moves forward with the right intentions and courage. Her work will remain an inspiration for the country, where no one will ever bow down to injustice. In this way, Suborny Rani initiated a transformation in the system, which would serve as a new example not only for Hosanabad but for every individual in the country.